Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here, back again with my live reaction for Supernatural. Of course, going into this, things have changed a little bit since we've had our last episode. I hope you guys are doing well, of course, with the weird virus version of Chuck's story for us, I guess. For anyone who hasn't known or hasn't, found this story so far, production has been shut down on the show until the whole coronavirus stuff kind of passes. So who knows how many episodes we're actually going to get that are, fully done and in post production and, they're just editing. But we have to wait now for the end of the series, actually. So it's really crazy. It'll be interesting to see really when things just clear up. Everyone's kind of like, hey, let's shut things down until April. I'm really hoping that's the case because, of course, we don't want this to go any further and things are just weird now. So, once again, I hope everybody's, legitimately staying safe out there and, either keeping distance or just being careful as a whole, however you need to be careful. But I'm glad the show is back. It's just a crazy thing to have happen. So it's weird. It's a really weird thing. And when I saw the post for that, it was like, we have a ton of movies being canceled, or at least, delayed and stuff like that. And now it's affecting, my favorite show, like the last season. And it's just crazy to think, like, it's just weird. Like, of all the things to, like, in Supernatural of all shows is, like, literally an actual viral pandemic that can, like, wipe out the world. I recently saw a post where somebody was like, Supernatural has a meme for everything, and they showed it. It was one of the clips from when Dean went to the future, which I think at the time was, like, 2011 or something. And everything was destroyed, and Chuck was like, hoard toilet paper like it's gold, because it is. And I was like, man, that's funny. You can always find a good meme from Supernatural. But I'm gonna be doing these reactions. I'm gonna be doing my reviews as normal until we figure out what's gonna happen. Depending on how long things go, I may or may not do some other videos. I've been thinking about. Admittedly, I was thinking about doing reaction videos for every season finale leading up to our final season finale. So I might actually end up doing that because I didn't think I'd have time, but now it's like, who knows? Like, if it only ends up lasting like a week or two, then I won't end up doing that. But it also just depends on how long the breaks are between the show, because right now it's pretty much one of the only things I'm actually reviewing or even putting on this channel. So we'll see what happens. But want to make that known for anyone who didn't know that was already out there. They paused production. I believe it was last week. That's probably going to be across the board for a lot of the CW shows. I know at the very least, Legends of Tomorrow also films in Toronto, and that's just kind of the big thing. I think most of the shows do film in Toronto, so CW is probably going to be weird in probably like a month or so, because that's probably when we'll actually catch up to like them cutting production. So it's probably going to be weird in about a month, and it might be just a lot of reruns and some weird stuff, and then a lot of the summer shows are going to be pushed out. So it's going to be out to see how things are affected and just what that ends up doing. I feel like they have to reference it. I don't know. I don't know if that's weird to reference in the series, but it's like the perfect show to reference a literal virus around the world, and I don't know how, but I feel like we should expect that. I feel like we should expect them to be like, man, we couldn't even fight monsters or something. Like, I feel like they're gonna reference it. Like, it's been so many weeks because we had to like literally stay in the bunker. I could be wrong, but I almost feel like Supernatural is like the perfect show to make that sort of meta commentary. But enough rambling. Sorry to do like this crazy long intro, but it's weird right now. So just wanted to say that in the beginning of this. But we're gonna get into this episode. It is Galaxy Brain is the episode. I didn't say the title in the beginning, but it's just weird times. So we'll get right into it and just relax and have some fun.
Come again.
This guy reminds me of Brandon Routh because of his hair. I like that Chuck is just. He's just so sad. It's interesting to watch.
I don't know, maybe
It's like he has.
that shouldn't matter, right? I've gotten what I want from
He has
hundreds
everything.
of Sam's and Deans. I could get what I
Yeah.
want from 100 more.
He's literally
I
God,
don't
but
care.
he can't have them.
Those other toys, they don't. They're the ones.
How about a stereo?
I don't need more. It's time to start canceling shows.
Man, that's a. With the very specific times we're in, Chuck just was like, that's pure virus talk right there. That's where we are. Things are being canceled.
I didn't. Cass saved me.
She must have known that too. Relax. Just
rules.
That does bring up a
Wait for
lot of
instructions.
questions. Like, how far do the books actually go? Like, because if the books are about your death, how far before your death is it? You know, is it like a day or a week or something like that? How all-knowing is death?
Who are you talking to?
Okay. So, first part of this episode, so far, I'm enjoying it. Also, I'm not even remotely close to being worried about Jodie. I hope. I just hope. But yeah, they brought up a lot of questions. There were a lot of parts where they were talking, and I was kind of just like, it's been so long since I've done the actual thing. I was like, I just kind of want to watch the episode. But they did a lot of stuff where it's like them talking about, like, you know, what can we do as far as trusting Billy or believing in her? And it's like, you know, she was right about Rowena, but then they mentioned the Malik box and she was wrong about that. And it's like, well, what does she know? Like, is it all just possibilities? I mean, it's, you know, almost like every book basically is a parallel universe. It's supposed to be this thing works this way, but if it's someone's that, you know, if it's someone's end, how are there infinite possibilities? Or, well, seemingly infinite. You know, at least for Dean, he had like a trillion of effing things. But then it's like, oh, this is the actual one. How does she know that? You know, what does she truly know is or is not definitive for, I guess, that Earth that they're actually on? Because it seems like with having all those different books, it would basically be all the other Earths. It would be all of Chuck's alternate outcomes or hopes and designs and things like that. So it just makes me wonder, how much faith should they really have in her? Or what does she truly know? What doesn't she know? What's right and what's wrong? And it's weird that it is kind of in the middle. It's like she does know this stuff, like, you know, she got the Rowena thing, but they were able to circumvent the whole thing where it's like, yeah, cast Dean off into the ocean forever. And, you know, like, just there's a lot of different questions. So it's really interesting kind of going through it and just being like, what does she know? And what doesn't she know? What does work and what doesn't work? Who does it work on? You know, like the Malik box was supposed to work for Dean, and they were like, "Ah, we figured all that out." And then they're like, "Well, hey, why don't we use it on Jack?" And they just assumed it would work, and yeah, that was them doing their thing. But it's like there's just so many elements to this is definitive, but then, you know, in however many episodes is she just gonna come out and be like, "I knew it was actually gonna fail, but it had to go this way because this was the true path the whole time," and she was just telling them that. So it's interesting, you know, what is all-knowing at this point? It's very interesting, because even God doesn't know everything. You know, he doesn't actually see, at least in the context of the series, God doesn't see everybody all the time. Otherwise, he would know Jack was back. So it's interesting. It's weird, but I definitely like it, so it's definitely fun. Man. They can beat up like that time they were in hell.
Something that belongs to me.
See, and then they wanted to cancel this. Could have been a whole series. Could have had an actual, you know, a non-canceled spinoff. This would have been great. They could have been a whole season, alternate worlds, and all this other stuff. But no. Although, admittedly, I wouldn't mind less of the the color correcting green-blue palette. I don't mind not having that for an entire series.
I need to get back.
They already have a palette on this, which is like it's just good enough.
why I need your
Everything
help.
still looks normal, but I don't know if I could do like a series where half the episode was freaking was half blue, half green the whole time. That was also super quick. That was one of those weird things. I hate when they do that, and it's like you watch it for like 2 minutes. It's like, okay, we need another commercial. So there's not much else to say outside of that's crazy. Didn't see that one coming. And once again, I have another reason to be mad that we didn't get the Wayward Sisters spinoff. So there's that. There's that.
Nice to finally meet you in person.
I can't believe they've never met.
Long story.
I'm eating a sugar cookie, by the way. Happy St. Patrick's Day. It's Wednesday for me.
Hello, Jack.
That's not just dumb. That's Winchester dumb.
Hey, I'm the only one who can do this.
That's a good one. I like that.
And I'll tell death.
It's also very true, admittedly. It's funny that they've never met. It's the craziest thing. But I love these scenes with them together because of that weird connection that they share. Like, that's... He's still walking around technically in her dad's skin, but it's... You know, they've said it, he's died and come back so many times that it's just Cass now. Like, there is no anyone else. It's just him. It's interesting.
Oh, crap.
So this episode is very interesting because I'm just curious, you know, where it's headed, like how it's gonna ultimately play out. Like I imagine, I would hope that they're gonna end up saving Kaya, but that means that obviously this like tougher alternate, you know, version of her is gonna end up dying. She's gonna sacrifice herself to save basically the one that was able to grow up and have the regular life, like, you know, so to speak. But it's interesting to just watch this episode and see, like, you know, what's really gonna happen. How are things gonna play out? Kind of going forward. What is, you know, it gonna mean? And this is just not to harp on this, but of course, even if this were to happen before they did the Wayward Sisters, you know, if they were gonna do it, it would be interesting to see how that could continue. And it's just interesting to think about it. It sucks so much that they didn't decide to pick that up, because I feel like it's a great way. Like I think it was much better than the Bloodlines thing, and I think I mentioned that before. I've definitely harped on it. I think when the Grigori episode came in, which I kind of hope they still make a thing, because I'm like, I still feel like that's so important. And I always thought that was so cool, and I was like, Claire had her own cool storyline that was gonna be a whole season, and then alternate version of Kaya could have been its own thing, or those two together as a season, the main storylines. But I hope the Grigori thing comes back into play just because of how special that is. But I feel like this also has to come into play. Like they, especially going into the final battle, even though of course they technically just need Jack, they're gonna have their support team. They're gonna have these characters come back into play. So I feel like they might have to save Kaya, and it kind of brings the characters, you know, back into the fold a little bit, where they have their big moment kind of in the end of the series. So it'll be interesting. I don't think both of them are gonna live. I think they're gonna get Kaya back, because they, of course, it would also suck if they hit us with that and it's like, surprise, she's been alive the whole time, and then they actually kill her. That would really suck. So I don't think that's gonna happen. Obviously, Sam and Dean aren't gonna die, at least not yet. You know, we'll see what happens. But it's not what I expected to come back into, where it was like, hey, this storyline legitimately still matters. So we'll wait and see.
Let's go.
There's a million questions about her too. It's like, well, just what's the deal with humans on this earth, or whatever they may or may not be? Because they, I assume, are monsters because they have glowing red eyes. But she just seems normal, totally human. Obviously, she had human parents. It's like, you know, we were born on the same day and stuff like that. And it's just weird. It's like there's a million questions to just like. Whenever there's an alternate version, all you want to know is, well, how did you end up like this? She might not be super happy with him. I mean, I didn't think she'd like stab him. But that flashback when they did the thing where he was like flipping out and he had the gun in her face, was like, you know, maybe after all this, she can be pissed. I wonder if they chose to not have Kaya actually speak, to like keep it even more separated. Like we don't hear her voice, she's just the silent character in this. I think that if that was on purpose, I think that was a pretty cool choice, because it just kind of, I don't know, it keeps that separation. Like, you know, obviously it's one person, and even if you sound different, like I've mentioned that before, when people like switch between the human person and the angel, they totally pull it off. But normally that's just a part of it and you're used to it. And in this, I think it was an interesting choice to have her say nothing. Like, I'm sure she'll say something when she comes back, but to not have them speak in the same scene, I think was done on purpose, to be like pure separation. And I just like that idea. And I could also still be wrong, and it's just coincidence, but that's just how I look at it. Like, even now, nothing. I thought she would say something there, but I don't know. Another thing that could be total coincidence, but her wearing the red and Jack having the blue, I find interesting. Because they could have had a jacket that was any color, and they specifically went with, like, he's wearing blue, and they gave her red, just to, you know, the polar opposite deal. It's just interesting that they went with that.
If it hadn't, we would all be dead, so I'd say yeah, it worked.
Ooh. Alright, I didn't see that one coming. That was kind of messed up. That was messed up.
Hello, boys.
Whew. That scared the crap out of me. She's pissed, I would imagine. Ooh. Wow. That one caught me off guard. I did not see that one coming. I don't even know if that's the end of the episode. I couldn't catch the thing in time. I'm still watching this on my stupid freaking computer because I was behind. I like started recording the episode literally like 3 minutes late, and now I have to watch the whole episode on my laptop because otherwise I have to go through the process of separating my laptop, or well, on my computer, I guess, having one screen over there with it going on the computer, and then I watch it on cable, and it's like, just stick to it all the way through. Also, there's apparently a show on CWC that has I think Arya Stark in it. Old show from the CW. That's weird. I always find it weird that they have all these ads for like, check this show out. It's like all their ads are for shows that were canceled, and that's like the worst thing. But it is what it is, I guess. Great episode. I can't wait for this next part though, because this should be fun. This should be very interesting, and maybe we'll get some real answers. I would love that. It's fun episode as a whole, but now it's like it's at that point where it's like that's the twist I was looking for. And I thought about it too when she was like, we'd all be dead, and I was like, oh okay, I highly doubt Chuck is gonna show up, but I also didn't think a scythe was just gonna swing through her back and kill her. And it's just like, oh, that sucks. She seemed okay, and she totally got classic TV manipulated. It's like, oh, it's always the bodyguard person. It is always the same line. It's like, okay, why don't you go back to your boss and tell him how you failed, and let's see how they react. It always works in every TV show. I would love for one day one character is just like, I'm gonna do that because you're not gonna trick me, and then they just go tell their boss super fast, like, hey, especially in her case, like she could literally, I would assume she could just find Billy. I could be wrong. I don't know how that really works. I don't know. I mean, if angelic characters can pray to other angelic characters, I would assume the same for demonic characters, or however that works. I mean, technically it's a prayer, so I guess it doesn't have to be angelic, but I don't know. It's just interesting. Like, she literally has, like, teleportation. It's just like, hey, he's gonna do this thing, let's go back. And then, she jumps back. Like, no big deal. But classic manipulation, and then dead. So.
Everyone has a book.
Even God.
So God can die.
Everything dies.
They said in the beginning.
And are we pinned to God?
Man.
You'll reap God? Oh, yes.
I remember talking about that in high school with a friend of mine, where it was like, we were both like, man, he said he was going to kill God at some point. Like, that's insane. Whew, that's wild. That was 10 years ago. Well, I graduated 10 years ago, but probably, like 11, 12 years ago.
You are the messengers of God's destruction.
Interesting. I don't know how far reaching that goes for them, but that's certainly interesting. I don't know if he's about to snap him right now.
Everything's just fine.
Oh, he's done. It's got to be over, right? I feel like the whole place is about to explode or something crazy. Oh man, he just hit him with an asteroid. He just left. That's messed up. Wow. This is crazy. Oh my goodness. At least it was quick for that one guy. That was a wild ending to the episode. Definitely a great comeback episode. Man, there's a lot of interesting stuff. Billy's mad. Great callback. I think I mentioned that a few episodes ago. I was like, they always said it. It was like one of the first things Death actually said in the show during that conversation. And it was like, everyone gets reaped, even God. And it's like, God isn't even, well, yeah, Chuck was technically in the show at the time. Although, that's still, I want to go back and watch old Chuck episodes, because there really was some retcon stuff. Some of that stuff doesn't fit. But either way, that's really cool. It's a great callback. It just makes perfect sense. Oh man, I don't know what to expect going forward though. I'm gonna have to check out the promo, which I will have to do a little bit later. But definitely a good episode. I'm very excited to see where things are gonna go now. And Chuck, it's weird. Like, so this is, I think I mentioned this before, but it's kind of funny that they got into like the whole multiversal stuff, and I think I mentioned it, the reference as well, very recently. The CW comic book shows, they had like the Crisis on Infinite Earths and stuff, and it's just funny that it's almost like the same thing, just in a darker way. For this, it's just God going through and he's wiping out all the planets until it gets down to one. And it's just funny because I'm like, man, this is all I can think of now that it's multiple Earths and all these different planets are being wiped out until it gets to one singular Earth now. It's just funny because all I can think of is the Crisis Event. And so it's weird that Supernatural is having like its own thing, and that's just really funny to me. But this was a really good episode. I was especially happy with the ending. Classic Chuck monologue in the beginning. He needed an audience of one. Kept the dude trapped in the radio store, the radio shed for weeks on end, and just was wiping out worlds. Took some time. Big storms, comets to blow them up. Who knows what else? Fires and this and that. It's just really interesting. So we'll see what happens. I'm very curious to see if they will kind of mess around and maybe go back to some of the other worlds we've seen, specifically like the crazy world where the angels did take over. It would be interesting to see if they did a little bit with that and just what he's going to do in general. So I'm excited to see it. In general, this was a fun episode, so we just have to kind of wait and see what happens. Of course, we have to see how many episodes we get until our big pause as far as the whole virus situation kind of shutting down production, and hopefully that doesn't last super long. They recently been talking about that could go into the summer, and nobody wants that. That would really suck, but we just gotta wait and see. Who knows? But this is definitely a fun episode. Especially love the ending. Billy coming in and just being pissed with them, and of course the fact that she even knew that they did it brings up so many questions. Because if Chuck wasn't able to find out, how did she know? That's the big thing. Like, she could be holding onto the book. That could be the thing. Like, she's going through, and maybe the books change. Like I said, that's literally like my biggest question is what is definitive? What is destiny, and what is just a possibility? Like that's the big thing. Right about this, wrong about other stuff. So, does destiny just change as you're going about it? Like, what destiny's supposed to be, but technically destiny just has an end goal. But end goals change. Like people are like, this is my dream job. This is what I've wanted to do my whole life. And that's what you think of, when you're kids and stuff, that's what we do. And then something happens and all of that gets wiped away because you found something else that matters more. So it's like, what is destiny? Like, where is that line? So that's the interesting question, which is perfect for the final season. What is like the ultimate meaning, of life? Like, is it destiny? Do we do what we want? Is it just Chuck's game plan? Does any of this crap matter? So it's kind of funny, the big questions for the final season. But definitely love the episode. Glad the show is back. We'll see how many episodes we get before our, another break comes in. But of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this one. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. Of course, going forward, what predictions you guys have, what expectations you have, especially with the whole idea that Chuck is now kind of wiping out the other planets and just kind of condensing everything down to just the one Earth. And it's like, because that's all he cares about. That's his story that he wants. Technically, I guess, the original, Sam and Dean. So it'll be interesting, but I would love to know your predictions and what you want to happen, what you don't want to see happen. There's still one very particular character, Benny, who I really hope is not dead, and I swear I would be really sad if that was like the official canon ending where they're just like, oh yeah, he died a long time ago. I hope that's not the case. I really hope so. We'll see. We'll see about that. Maybe that scene they filmed, that we saw early on, they filmed a later episode at the same time, or whatever scenes he might have been in, they filmed at that same time while they had him. So maybe we'll see him pop up. I really hope we do, and that he didn't just die off screen at some point in purgatory. That is my hope. That's like the only thing. Other than that, I would love for both Sam and Dean to live, but I don't think that's going to happen with what they mentioned before the season started. Like, not everyone's going to be happy. That means somebody's dying. And I would assume it would be Sam and Dean. Also, Cass is just like a favorite, and Jack's a new favorite. Everyone's great. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode and what you're hoping for in the next one. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.